I'm Carol Cohn, and welcome to Purpose 360, the podcast that unlocks the power of purpose to ignite business and social impact. The next series of Purpose 360 episodes were taped in person on site at the One Young World Summit that was held in Montreal this year. For those of you who are not familiar with One Young World, I hope that these conversations will get you very, very excited to follow them online because they are making terrific impact around the globe. At the conference, there were nearly 2,000 Changemakers, and you have to apply to get accepted to this amazing event. And some leaders at the conference say, it's harder to get into this conference than it is to get into Harvard. Wow. The young ambassadors represented 190 countries, and you should think of this like the Olympics for change making. Also in attendance were leaders across the board around the world. Think older individuals like myself who have worked in the field for so many years, helping to make change. Welcome to Purpose 360, and I love socially responsible and sustainable brands. And today we're going to have a conversation with Elio Leoni Sceti.
Perfect.
Very good. Thank you. And he has this amazing company called the Craftory in London and in San Fran. And we're going to learn about his love of creating CPG brands with purpose.
That's what we do.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So why are you attending the One Young World Summit? Let's just start right there.
So One Young World is one of my greatest passion. I've been a founding counselor and I'm a trustee of One Young World from day -1, 14 years ago.
Oh, no kidding. From 2010.
That's it.
Great.
That's it. And it is just such a unique way to pull together everybody from around the world, 195 nations out of the 197 recognized, that, send in a way or the other one their future leaders. And the combination of that youth and openness and energy is just unmatchable.
Yeah, the energy is like extraordinary. We'll return to that in a moment, but I want to understand the Craftory and where that came from. I mean, you worked with traditional companies at many stages in your career, a very long time. You might mention which. And then all of a sudden, some light bulb happened.
Yeah, so what happened, I've been, let's say, involved in CPG, consumer product goods, for 35 years. And I've been growing in the career, been CEO of 2 companies. I spent most of my time with Reckitt Benckiser, before that Procter & Gamble, then Reckitt Benckiser, up to CMO, Growth Office. I was CEO of Europe. Then I left, I was CEO of EMI, the music, and then I left and I was CEO of Igloo Bird's Eye Findus, which is frozen food. And so this is kind of where I'm coming from. And we did marvelous things. We built wonderful brands. But over the course of those years, let's say that environment, planet, responsible consumption wasn't part of the thing that we were thinking about every day. None of us. No Reckitt Benckiser, no Procter, no Unilever, except for you.
Except for me, yeah.
So when I stopped being executive, I started to step on a couple of boards. I've been with AB InBev for 10 years. I'm now on the board of Kraft Heinz. And as I was on the board, again, I sort of realized that there was so much that actually big corporate can do. And I started progressively, almost like by choice, to become a little bit the brand and the purpose champion at the board level for this company that I was with. And then 6 years ago, I was sharing with a good friend of mine who I've done business with and worked together, that I thought that it was such a big gap in the investment world to have somebody that actually has operational experience that could be really helpful to the new founders that are needing to grow and that they have some operational challenges that is difficult to understand and overcome. So a knowledgeable investor that could help these young new brands that had very high stickiness, level of loyalty, retention, consumer loved them, but they either didn't grow or they grew to a point in which one of the big guys would buy them out and kind of integrate them into the machine, and they would lose the reasons why they actually were founded. So I said, why don't we set up a company that actually invests them? We offer our operational expertise, we help them grow, and then we get them to a point where they're so big that when they got bought or they go public or whatever they do, they're so big they can prove that their theory that they can improve people, planet, or society cannot be denied. And that's how it started. This person I spoke with is Ernesto Schmitz, who became my co-founder with the Craftory. A very different, background. He comes from entrepreneur, tech, sort of, data kind of guy. And and that was 6.5 years ago.
So the companies that you would like to fund, do they come to you with purpose or sustainability at the center? Or do they come to you with a great idea and then you help them find their purpose and then help them leverage to sustainable supply chains and marketing and things like that?
The way we express it is that they have to have it on the front label.
I love that.
A brand that has it on the back label that, 25% of plastic might be recycled on a Monday morning is not really what we're interested in. So they come to us. Normally we look at brands that have already sort of 15, 20 million, run rate sales. So they already have some proven tractions and some, consumers that have already chosen them for a reason. But we recognize that responsible consumption, that's the way we define it, that have some cause that is either, about health or about planet or about progressing society. So there's some cause under this responsible consumption umbrella that is on the front label. And then what we do is that if we like that, if we like the founders, and if there are a number of financial key indicators that we want to recognize for potential, if you want, then we invest, and together with the investment, we bring our operational expertise and help them grow. Okay,
so front of the label means authentic. It means it's embedded in many, if not all, processes of the company: employee engagement, communities, sourcing, supply, marketing, packaging, all of that.
Yes. The one that we want in front of the label doesn't have to be all of them, because it's very difficult already in consumer goods to have one thing that is unique to you and recognizable. If you try to have 5, it's becoming mission impossible. So front of the label has to be one thing. Some other brands might have, plastic, on the front label. Some other brand might have no toxic ingredients. So on the front label, you got to have one, but your ethos as a company has to embrace them all.
And now, do you go look for them, or do they find you, or, what's the best way?
Well, when we started 6.5 years ago, we were a totally unknown entity. I've been in consumer goods for a long time and work on many brands, but the Craftory was in existence. So we established some way to look for this brand out there. We produced some material. You might have seen the one with the death of the VC. So that was a way to cut through some of the noise and to establish our brands as it was. And then the brands, like all complex systems, evolve and adapt on the needs of the market. We had COVID in between, high inflation, some of the consumer pattern differences. So, and we became more known. We've done, 13 investment, some of them, very good brands that grown very well. And so now I would say we are on the receiving end. People are looking for us.
Okay. People over the door, and they're saying, hey, we want to join these guys.
Yeah, we're very sharp. We are consumable, not even, consumable consumer goods. Okay. So if you are in this specific, which consumable basically means you have a bottle and a cap, you have a tube and a cap or something. At the end of the week is finished, you go buy another one. Okay, so that's kind of.
But put the plastic in the right place.
But put the plastic, possibly compostable and recyclable, in the right place. And so if you're in that space, you probably, if you're growth stage in consumable consumer goods, you probably heard about the Craftory. And if you're raising funds, you're probably thinking that we might be good capital to partner with.
That's great. And talk about the categories, because they're listed very plainly on your website that you're interested in.
Yeah, well, it's really just across, the consumable.
But you said baby and food.
Everything. I mean, we in this moment, what we think is very interesting is the pet care space. It's been going for a while. We just had a wonderful exit to General Mills, one of our portfolio company called Edgar & Cooper. Invested about 3.5 years ago. We grew sales about 5 times from the moment we invested to the moment we exited. The founders are great, and we exited to General Mills. who has other brands like Blue Buffalo and others. And it was a perfect poster child of what the Craftory does, because, it's great founders, great brands, great cause, mission. And then when it gets into General Mills, whatever they do, it can actually impact much bigger by being used by General Mills as a standard also for the other brands.
Right. So you wouldn't be looking for like a Cliff Bar that sold for a huge number to Mondelez. It's smaller companies.
Yes. When we enter, 15, 20 million, a little bit more run rates, and then we exit whenever the time comes. The good thing is that we're not a fund, so we do not have that sort of, cliff moment that we have to sell.
Oh, great. Oh, that's very good.
We stay with the company as long as it's right to do.
Okay. So are some of any of these companies that you're looking at B Corps?
I want to say that out of the 13 brands that we have now, probably B Corp is in our, we publish an impact report. I want to say that there are already 5, if not 6, that are B Corp. Okay. And the other one, we kind of help them get there.
Right. What do you love the most about the business now that you like to do?
I think that is a very interesting moment in which mission, as in sustainable ESG, whatever you want to call it, it changes all the time, but responsible consumption used to be something that you had to do and you had to show in order to receive from the consumers that you wanted that nod of approval, and you can price it accordingly and all of that. And we're now at a point in which it has to be in the DNA of the company. It is not anymore an extra label that you want to put on the front like B Corp or whatever. If as a brand you do not have it in the DNA, meaning when you develop new product, when you decide maternity leave, when you go to market in certain ways that are whatever fuel efficient and good for footprint or whatever, if a brand doesn't have that into the day-to-day business, it becomes almost impossible and unsustainable over time because of the cost and the difference. So what I really like is to help identify companies that have the potential to, and then find a way to help them bring all of that responsible consumption into the DNA of the company.
Who do you like that you haven't worked with that's like a great example of a company that's getting it right? Doesn't have to be large.
Tony Chocolonely is a very good example. I think a very good example was in beauty, which is very rare. There are not many companies in beauty. Was The Ordinary that Estée Lauder bought some years ago. They found this way to kind of bring it down to the single ingredient and say, be simple and straight focus. If you want this ingredient, buy this thing and not, the other one. So to not over ingredient, over complex, over price what people need. The Ordinary was a very good example. But hey, we love the one we have in our portfolio.
Can you name any others in your portfolio?
Sure. I mean, Seed, which is basically a system for gut health that works on a sort of biome, microbiome for gut health and gives you general health. It's very science-based, incredibly well-researched. It's probably the most science-based supplement, out there. Hippies, which are delicious snack with peas.
Oh, yes, I've had them. They're lovely.
They're lovely. They're fantastic. And then we have one called Diaper, D-Y-P-E-R, Diaper, which is basically compostable. And a lot of the landfill is paper, is diapers and so on. And so this is a wonderful US D2C only for the moment, brand that does diaper with a very clear angle. So those are,
So let's talk about the environment in terms of, everyone says, gosh, Gen Z, they're going to, they will change brands for one that's more socially responsible. They want to work for companies that are socially responsible. They want to advocate or be an activist against. And I did some of that research, so I'm kind of one of the perpetrators. How are consumers today? Are they really buying with a sense of conscience? Or are they they're talking it, but they're not walking the talk?
I would say that up to COVID, it was really meaning it. And I would say that the COVID years and the excessive consumption, because COVID, everything sold 20, 30, 40% more for really no particular reasons. People did not need it more. They just had more time to buy. So,
and they did.
So after those years and then the massive inflations, and if you take a look at consumer goods, since then, average have increased like 30, 35% price. It's huge. I mean, we would not increase price 35% in whatever 20 years before. So, So I think that is now a little bit less obvious that ESG matter, that responsible consumption matter, even for Gen Z, Gen X, cross-generational really, because the price has started to play a more important role and people have less disposable income, and also because there is a little bit of a backlash of the excessive consumption of the COVID year. So particularly with the younger, there is a little bit of that, we actually don't need all of that. We don't need all of that makeup. We don't need all of that, fine-tuned, custom-made, tailor-made, meal that is only delivered, to me. And so they kind of realize that there is a little bit less reasons for being of all that. And so a little bit less driven by it. I would say is on the decline, is not on the rise.
Ah. So it's going to be not for you, but for a consumer, it's a secondary reason to buy. It's not a primary. Taste, obviously, price important.
Yeah.
But then it's the next level.
I think it's the next level. I mean, on average, we've looked at data. You're talking about maybe, let's call it 10, 12% on any category that are these sustainable warriors type of, sustainability first kind of buyers.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the plastics issue, because it is everywhere, and everything from PFAS to, in your bloodstream and every place, in the placenta. Do you address that at all in any way with the companies, one, that you're looking at, and then two, are you doing anything at the Craftory in terms of trying to, you can't ameliorate it, but can you make somewhat of a dent in it?
The way we approach it is we look at companies that have solved the problem. And if we do find one, I would definitely invest on it. We haven't yet found one that has solved the problem. But in our portfolio, I would say there are at least three that have very distinct step forward in this. One is, I mentioned before, diaper doesn't have the plastic in the various adhesive, areas and so on, which makes it compostable and therefore, significantly better. The other one is Drops, which is laundry detergent.
I know Drops. I had him on my show.
Fabulous. He's doing very well. And we started now, we went also on the grocery channels. We're about to extend all of the retail. So from D2C only is also, omni-channel or multi-channel. And Drops basically have no plastic in the, in the whole product and primary or secondary packaging. And the third is that we have actually invested in a platform, which is a cross-platform. It's called Polymateria. Polymateria is basically something that, is sort of is an active that you disperse in the macrogranules that when you do, PET or, different type of plastics in the manufacturing process, so that actually accelerates the time that it takes to degrade for plastic, which is like 500 years, accelerate to like 5 or 10, which is a significant improvement. It is not zero, but it is very significant, and it's growing very nicely. And it's as I say, it's a technology, it's not a brand.
Right. So you're also investing in a technology as
long as it serves the purpose of the brands that we invest in, because it gives us some added value in that relationship.
Okay, got it. Okay, so let's now turn back to One Young World Summit. Okay. So have you ever found a company over the years that you've been here, 14 years or whatever, that became somebody that was part of the Craftory?
Not yet.
Oh, I know you want to.
I've been here fishing for 15 years, but no. Jokes aside, is the two things share so much of the values, One Young World and the Craftory, but just the stage at which, we've seen many fabulous companies. Some of them have become fabulous, but not in consumable goods and not at the stage that we're looking at. So,
when you're asked to provide counsel to these young changemakers, what are some of the areas that they're really seeking, information and inspiration from you?
Priority setting. It's a big one. It's a very complex world for anybody to set up a company, make it succeed, because you have to do a million things. A million things are never well done. You always have to do the first 1 or 5, and then you get to 10, and then you stop. So priority setting is one. Pragmatical advice on how to solve specific issue like going retail. I mean, stepping back for a second, in the Craftory, we have some areas in which we have specific craft partners that are expert of. One is go-to-market. It really requires knowledge and experience. You can explain it in books, but you got to have done it for a while to know it. The other one is unit economics and specifically designing a P&L that has the right curve, that has the margin in the right place. Because if you start with the margins below the right place, it just, even if you scale, it never goes. So, sort of economics and P&L. The third is brand power. So advice on brand power is very important because you need to make it relevant, unique, distinctive. Is not easy, and you need to understand what it means. Then team dynamics, sort of organizational design, how do you make it agile but structured in a way that you don't have wasted. And then importantly, what sector, how you price it in a sector and how is the sector growing? Because you don't want to swim against the river. You want to skate, now that we're in Canada, I can say this, skate where the puck will be, right?
Right. I always say that, even in the U.S.
So these 5 areas that I described that are the expertise of the Craftory is actually the sort of 5 areas that young people tend to ask me advice for because they intuitively understand that very important.
Nice alignment. That's nice alignment. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Same here.
And if I come across anybody, I'm going to send them your way because I do. Everybody's calling me about purpose and things like that.
Please do.
But I always like to give the last question, answer, advice to my guest. So how would you like to leave our listeners today?
With a very positive and optimistic view on the fact that the only thing that matters is to think and believe that impossible is nothing. This young group of fantastic people really have that energy and that undiluted view of the world that allows them to have a vision, to go beyond the boundaries that we all believe are unremovable boundaries. Well, actually they are. They're breakable, they're removable, they know how to do it. If they have a belief, impossible is nothing.
I love that. If they have the belief, impossible is nothing. So thank you. It's been a fabulous conversation. And please continue to do what you're doing because we need more CPG brands that are responsible and sustainable and something that we need and want to use and love. So thank you very much.
Love chatting with you and thanks for the question. Bye-bye.
This podcast was brought to you by some amazing people, and I'd love to thank them. Ann Hundertmark and Kristen Kenny at Carol Cone on Purpose, Pete Wright and Andy Nelson, our crack production team at True Story FM, and you, our listener. Please rate and rank us because we really want to be as high as possible as one of the top business podcasts available so that we can continue exploring together the importance and the activation of authentic purpose. Thanks so much for listening.